I picked the Bengals to win. Both Bradley and I did. I was shocked that they were 5.5 point underdogs,
Oh, and
and
I think especially after the game we saw, I saw something was amiss with that line because
the
it just was not it
the
did not
public
play
has
out that way.
overvalued the Bills the whole the bet like the Vegas and the public have overvalued the Bills the whole year.
And I think we really saw the limits to that given what was clear in that matchup was the sheer lack of depth combined with a not particularly creative scheming up for that to account for that lack of talent on both ends of the ball.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Leslie Frazier and what they and McDermott and what they had and their scheme on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that start from the Bengals in that snow game with Burrow, he went 9 for 9 to start the game, and two touchdowns basically right off the bat, and there seemed to be very little resistance, and you just kind of saw even and also they did not test that injured backup filled offensive line with a pass rush whatsoever. It seemed
No,
like.
but that to me was potentially the most shocking thing is you saw a few um you saw a few reps where guys like because to recap, Alex Kappa not playing, Lale Collins not
Out
playing,
for
Jonah
yeah.
Jonah Jackson is that?
Jonah Williams.
Jonah Williams, excuse me, Jonah Williams not playing.
Yeah.
So there were three backups in Hakeem Adeniji, Cordell Volson, who not to make sorry, I just do have to say Cordell Volson is a white man from North Dakota, which
His name's Cordell.
really shocked me.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I really was like, oh, okay.
You just don't expect that.
Yeah, you just don't expect a Cordell Volson being a guy from white guy from North Dakota necessarily, but the and it was and Jackson Carman, who was a early round pick for them, either either in this draft or the draft before that, and there were reps where Carman was pancaking guys like Ed Oliver or Greg Rousseau, and even when I mentioned to you before we got on air, is there was a snap where Burrow didn't really have any options and started to scramble, and it was a one-on-one foot race to the sideline with him and Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau, considered one of the most explosive athletes, edge rushers out of the draft he came out of from Miami, and Burrow was beating him relatively easily to the sideline.
Yeah.
So it just really showed that the combination of these three backup linemen who under any other matchup would be pressure points to hit over and over from a hungry front seven, they couldn't get the job done against those guys, and Burrow, which made it so much easier for Burrow in ways that it was not supposed to be easy for him. They made a meal out of guys that were not reserves.
Yeah,
It was really alarming to see. I couldn't believe how lifeless they looked against three backup offensive linemen.
And I mean, they were slipping too on that snowy field a little bit, but that doesn't explain Burrow's ability to scramble like he did, and it also doesn't explain Mixon had over 100 yards. And the Bengals' run game, from an efficiency standpoint, is nothing really to write home about. But Mixon was making it look easy throughout the day.
100%. He was right. He was getting chunk yards at will, and also just out muscling them too, just like
Yeah.
hitting hard and like not getting much resistance even when in certain either at the goal line or in the middle of the field.
But this is part of what we were saying all year about the Bills, is that the talent is not what the betting public thinks.
Right.
It's not the Chiefs. They don't have Frank Clark and Chris
Jones, even
and
Karlaftis now.
Karlaftis is
coming
coming
strong.
on.
Yeah.
I mean, the 49ers and the Eagles are stacked. Like, there's nothing.
And just the style of play, the aggressiveness, the smarts, the communication. It just is, and like we've been saying in terms of the injuries, we know Von Miller was not there, we know Micah Hyde was not there, but it's the same point we make about offensive personnel.
Yeah.
You have to be able to accommodate that with whether it's scheme, whether it's aggressiveness, whether it's changing the style of play to accommodate that. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was remarkable to see how stark that contrast was between the Bengals offense and the Bills defense, but the same thing occurred on the other side of the ball as well.
Well, but and on the offensive side of the ball, it's the same thing, right? Like, I mean, let's take a look at the rest of these teams that are still left.
Right.
You have a receiving duo of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins,
Right.
let alone Hayden Hurst. I think is still undervalued and like disrespected.
And the one thing I wanted to highlight there that I thought was an amazing play call, and which I think the tide is turning a little for me with Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan as an offensive duo, because I think maybe there was some rustiness and some like risk aversion being a new coach and everything, but now I kind of feel like they're understanding their personnel better. They're understanding how to scheme up their personnel better. I think the line improving has helped them be able to be a little bit more comfortable with stuff to do for Burrow. The changing from the under center to shotgun stuff has been super helpful, obviously. But the one play that I really think highlighted that is the Hurst touchdown. Is that they faked a screen to Chase.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, which caused all of the Bills defenders to gravitate basically towards Chase, and Hurst just slipped out of a block and got the touchdown. And it's like, that's when you know you can use the gravity of your star to get other guys to maximize their chances.
Exactly.
And the Bills, like we've been saying, the Bills don't really have those options nearly as available to them.
I mean, in terms of weapons, of the remaining teams, the Eagles, the Bengals, we know at the receiver position that they exceed that.
Oh, of course.
But like of these four remaining teams, the Bills, the running backs aren't as good.
Nope. And they couldn't really rely on the running game for a while either.
Their offensive line is average at best.
And that showed too because even guys who are mostly run stuffers, BJ Hill, DJ Reader, big guys in the middle, they were getting through. They were giving Allen problems.
Trey Hendrickson. I mean,
who is just a great pass rusher. That's just his thing.
The point is just that the Bills are not made. I mean, there was a reason that they threw the bag at Von Miller, and it's because they understood that they do not have that many playmakers on their team, and that's why I was so bullish on the Bengals. The 49ers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, I mean, a little bit less so because it's so much more on Mahomes, are such much more complete teams than the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it was like not even close the whole game.
I think it was so apparent. In that this Bengals team is not the team that played the Rams last February.
Yeah.
That this team is much more complete, understands itself so much more, has a real identity on both sides of the ball, and can adapt way more to their opponents and to the specific matchups. And that's like, we're seeing that more and more offensively, but Anarumo is kind of like the prime example of a coordinator who really is able to take the versatility of his bunch of guys and just adapt it to who he's playing. He's not coming out there with the same coverages, the same scheme every single snap. He's always trying to get you sort of off balance as an offense.
Right.
And we've seen it, and I think they've won 10 in a row now at this point, or 9 in a row or something. We've seen it in every game dating back to the regular season.
Ever since October, it's like they've
a switch flip. They're
seen
there.
Another gear. Yeah,
Totally.
gotten to another gear.
So it's really amazing. I honestly think, and again, what I'm fascinated about for this matchup is that coming up this coming weekend.
I was just checking the spread. It's a 1-point spread.
Which that's a pick'em, of course. Totally makes sense.
And 2.5-point underdogs with the 49ers. Like, what great games we have coming up.
It's gonna be so
Can
good.
Can it start tomorrow?
I know. I wish. I'm like getting nervous. The team, and also the thing with this Chiefs Bengals matchup that we've seen every time is that the Bengals have been able to get one over on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
This is a big matchup, not just in terms of the two best teams in the AFC, but narratively, can Mahomes finally beat Burrow? He couldn't get it done in the regular season, and then it was a great conference finals last year when he couldn't get it done either. And there are very few quarterbacks that have really had Mahomes' number throughout his career, and you can basically whittle it down to Burrow and Tom Brady over both being in Tampa and in New England.
Yeah,
and that's really it.
Yep.
So it'll be really fascinating to see if Mahomes can overcome this, and of course the big question mark with that as a follow up is how healthy will he be to do so?